'Cause We're Nerds, the podcast that covers trends and new releases in comics, movies, video games, board games, and much more. I'm your host, Caleb, and with me is my brother, Jacob.
Why, hello, everybody.
February is the month of love, so we're celebrating our love-hate relationship series by revisiting the original X-Men trilogy. Today, we're looking at X-Men The Last Stand. How does newcomer Brett Ratner handle the series? Why is this the most hated film in the series? And does it have any redeeming features? Find out on this week's episode of 'Cause We're Nerds. Woo, man, we finally made it through the series.
Finally,
the last one, the third one, for a while at least.
Indeed. And I didn't watch the second one, Caleb, so you've had to deal with this a bit more than me.
Yeah. So, we did the one last week with Courtney. You're back here, finally. I was hoping that, since Zach couldn't do the last one, maybe you and I would get to do the last one, so it would be us through the whole series. That didn't get to happen because, of course, life gets in the way. But you are here now, and that's all that matters. Before we want to get too far, though, Jacob, a crazy thing happened today. Did you see my post on Facebook about the Marvel TV shows?
I saw it right before we started, actually.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't heard yet, although you probably have, because it's Monday now, so it'll be a few days after this, Marvel announced today that they are doing 5 new animated TV shows on Hulu geared towards adults, which is really interesting to me because they're doing their Disney Plus streaming platform, and I guess they're just trying to keep those adult-oriented things off there, because I've said a few different times that that one is more for family. Like, they don't want to put things that are really adult-focused on there.
See, I didn't know they had said that. My thought was maybe they were releasing more things beforehand to kind of hook people, so once that streaming platform does come out, it will entice people to go over there.
Yeah, no, I think it's more the family thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the selection of the characters for these shows is very odd. I kind of really love it because it's so out there. So here they are. They're MODOK, which is a giant head in a floating chair. Hit Monkey, which is a monkey that is a hitman. Dazzler and I forgot the other one. It's Dazzler and someone else in a show. Dazzler is an X-Men. I don't know who. Oh, Tigra. I don't know who Tigra is. There's a Tigra at DC. It's not the same one. And then Howard the Duck. And then after they all come out, they're going to do a Defenders style crossover with all of them, which is super weird, but I kind of love it.
Yeah, Caleb, I feel so I have that Deadpool comic that has Hit Monkey in it, right?
Yeah.
And I love Hit Monkey. I think Hit Monkey's hilarious, right? I like Howard the Duck. I don't know a lot about Tigra, MODOK, and who was the other one? With Tigra.
Howard the Duck?
No, not Howard.
Dazzler.
Yes, Dazzler. I don't know a lot about them, but given with the other members that I do know, I feel like this could easily be adult-oriented, like they said. I feel like they could make it really, really funny. And, I don't know, I could see, it's like a weird combo, but I could also see them working well together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like the Island of Misfit Toys, right?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people that shouldn't be together, but that when they come together, it could be really hilarious.
Which is, and I think you said it, this is animated, for everybody. I don't know if you said that. I think you did.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know, it's interesting. Also that they're releasing them on Hulu.
Yeah, so they've already got The Runaways on Hulu, which is a really big hit. And with the Fox merger, well, the Fox buyout, I guess, they are going to have, I think, a controlling interest in Hulu.
That makes sense.
It is in their interest to put some stuff on there and boost the sales.
Interesting. So I wonder if, from now on, if they are going to release adult-orientated things that they're not going to do them on Netflix anymore.
Probably not. I mean, their deal with Netflix has been winding down. You know, they canceled Daredevil. They canceled they canceled all of them except for Jessica Jones and Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
They're the only ones that have not been canceled yet. They've both got seasons coming out. Well, actually, Punisher's already out. I haven't watched it yet.
It is fantastic.
Really? Have you finished it?
I just finished it. I'm going to talk about that in my What You've Been Up To.
Awesome. Okay, I got to get around to it. So yeah, I think a lot of the things are going to be moving over to Hulu, which honestly, I'm glad that not all of the Marvel stuff is going to be on Disney Plus. I'm going to get Disney Plus because of the stuff that is going to be there, but I still would like to have a little bit of variety. You know, if everything was on there and I had friends that didn't have it, I couldn't talk about it with them, or maybe if I decide to drop it, you know, it's just, I like that there's going to be stuff on Hulu.
I completely agree. I don't like how, sorry, excuse me. I don't think it's a good idea anyways to put all of your things on one platform. And especially how they're doing it here, how they're kind of splitting it up. I think that's a really smart move.
And I haven't said yet, but the crossover show is called The Offenders instead of The Defenders. So that's pretty hilarious.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah.
It didn't have a release date, did it?
I did not see one. The only thing they had was that image that I posted of all of them in it, which some of them look like they're in different styles. It's definitely, especially MODOK. So I don't know how that's going to work, if that's like a final image or when it's going to come out. I mean, it could be years away. Who knows?
Interesting. Well, we'll just have to wait and see, but I'm definitely excited.
All right, before we get started, I'm going to take a nice big gulp of this water.
Nice. Water. The nicest drink of them all.
All right. I am, my thirst has been quenched. I am ready to go.
Now that your thirst has been quenched, Caleb, let's quench the interest of our listeners.
Oh, all right. So we are here to talk about X-Men 3, a movie that was released in 2006. Now, this movie, probably the biggest thing coming into this movie, well, there is two things, I guess, really, is the hate that this movie gets, and also going along with that, the change in directors. So Bryan Singer directed the last two, and when this one came up, he didn't really have a finalized story. He didn't, like, it wasn't fleshed out in his head. And around the same time, they were looking to do the Superman Returns movie, and so he left to do that movie, and they had to fill his shoes. And there was a lot of people that were looked at. Several people were even asked to come in. And surprisingly, one guy was actually hired, but ended up leaving. That guy that was hired was Matthew Vaughn. Now, if you know your people, you know that Matthew Vaughn was the guy that, well, if my mouth can say the words that my brain is thinking, goodness, he's the guy that eventually did First Class, X-Men First Class in 2011. That's 5 years after this movie. And that's one of, if not the best X-Men movie.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, like not solo movies, X-Men movies.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So he was actually hired, he signed on, he did a bunch of work on it. Apparently, he storyboarded the whole movie, but he ended up having to leave because of some personal problems and professional problems, whatever, stuff like that happens. So they were asked, they had to go around and look at a whole bunch of people. The cast of the movie actually only signed on for the first two, the returning cast members. So they all had to sign new contracts. When Hugh Jackman signed on, of course, he's kind of the face of the franchise, he got director approval. So, first they went to his friend Darren Aronofsky and said, hey dude, do you want to do this? And he turned him down. Next, they went to Joss Whedon, who actually wrote one of the stories that this is based on, and he said no because he was working on a Wonder Woman movie at the time, which didn't pan out. They also asked Zack Snyder. All of these people, big names. Obviously, we know Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder more than Darren Aronofsky, but it's kind of crazy that these people were asked at all to do this movie.
Okay, so obviously I know who Zack Snyder is. Obviously. I know who Joss Whedon is. I don't know anything about Darren. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name.
Aronofsky?
Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah, he is a very big director. He hasn't done a ton of movies, though. Let me see where... I was going to try to pull him up to
his
talk about
filmography.
Yeah, his filmography. Darren.
That's right. I know English.
Okay, so some of the things that he has done. He did Mother, which came out 2 years ago. He did movie. He did Black Swan.
Okay.
You probably know that one. The Wrestler, The Fountain, Requiem for a Dream. A lot of big movies, I would say. Well, Requiem is like a big one that people know about. Excuse me. Black Swan, people know a lot about. Noah, I actually don't know if I... Oh, Noah was the one with Russell Crowe. If you remember that.
Yes.
And then Mother came out a couple years ago, and that had Jennifer Lawrence in it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it, but I wanted to.
I did not see it either.
Yeah, so he's won a ton of awards. Like, he's a big name. So the fact that his name was thrown around was a big deal. But they ended up landing on Brett Ratner. Now, I looked up his filmography, and the only things I really know him from at that time would have been Rush Hour 1 and 2.
Now, Caleb, I don't know if you know this. Rush Hour 1 is one of my favorite movies, right?
Really?
Yes, I like all the Rush Hours, actually, but Rush Hour 1 especially is one of my favorite movies. Now, looking at Rush Hour 1, right, and thinking, oh man, he's going to come in and direct X-Men. Not the same type of movie at all. So,
right.
I'm surprised, but I don't know. I mean, if I would have been following Marvel as closely as I am now, back then, you know, and I knew about him and I had seen Rush Hour and everything, I still would have been excited, but just, I don't know. I feel like they could have got someone that's done a little bit more movies that are similar, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, the Russo brothers had only done, like, TV comedy stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and Jon Favreau, when they got him, was best known for Zathura and Elf.
Okay, well, apparently, I already knew this. I don't know much about directors, as you know, Caleb. I don't really follow that side of it, but I should, because some of these people are surprised. Like you said, the Russo brothers, I would have never guessed. Never.
Oh, yeah. So, like, it's not uncommon to see stuff like this. Part of the issue was it was already well into production when they had to hire him, because Matthew Vaughn left pretty late in the game, and they had already set aggressive deadlines. So I think it was one of those, get whoever we can, because we have to have a director for this movie.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, and so just like last time, just like a lot of the times, the last 2 times we talked about this, they had a lot of rewrites and stuff. Again, they had 2 completely different people write 2 completely different scripts and then shove them together, which I don't feel like that's the best thing to do. Like, when you do that, you leave plot threads and things hanging, but I guess they like doing that.
I agree with you, Caleb. You can't have one major story and then another major story and combine them and not expect to have those plot holes, like you said, but also lose some of the impact of the story itself.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you have movies that don't do well, it's because of script issues with things like this, and it's surprising that they keep doing that. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but at the same time...
It is the X-Men franchise.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense. Which I was going to actually say. At the same time, I don't understand. One of the people that wrote the script is Simon Kinberg, who is actually doing the new Dark Phoenix movie. But
Interesting.
Right. He, at this point, had helped write Fantastic Four and Elektra for Fox, neither of which did super great, and critically were not good at all.
What are you talking about? Elektra was amazing. What?
So, I don't understand why they keep hiring the people that aren't doing good work.
They have faith in them, Caleb.
And it's like bringing them back for Dark Phoenix. Like, he has regrets about this movie, but I don't think that that's necessarily the right choice for a do-over.
I mean, maybe they're thinking that these directors are learning from their mistakes, you know? And maybe they don't want to bring in someone completely new. Maybe they know that how these directors work and how the actors typically get along with them. And so they think, hey, they messed up the first time. No way they could do it the second time. Let's go and bring them in.
You burn me once, you're going to burn me again. But Simon Kinberg was only the scriptwriter. He wasn't a director. The upcoming Dark Phoenix movie is his directorial debut.
Oh, that's cool. I'm actually excited for that movie.
I'm very cautious about it.
It's just different.
Yeah, we'll get into that this summer. Speaking of the Phoenix, the studio actually didn't want to include the Phoenix in this movie at all.
They thought it was too dark, didn't they?
You're just reading my notes.
Caleb, whoa. Why do you gotta tell everybody that, you know?
Because
Man.
I spent a long time preparing these notes, and here you are, just looking at them like you done them, and they're not yours.
Well, okay, fine. I'll do my own notes. Well, I could wow, interrupted me too. I could see why they didn't want to do the Phoenix. I mean, I'm not as into comic books as you are, and as the listeners have heard before, but I have read a few storylines with her in it, and, well, not exactly her, but yes. Anyways, with the Phoenix in it. And so, it gets pretty serious. And even in this movie, which we'll get into, the small glimpses we see are, I mean, they're pretty dark.
Yeah, and the reason they didn't want to is because, you know, at this time, there still weren't that many superhero movies out. It was kind of, they were starting to be, I guess this would have been like in the crux of the superhero craze then, but you got to remember, those start 2 years before that. In this case, 3 years before it came out, production was started. So they had to make a lot of those decisions early on. And also, this movie had a budget of $210 million. That's a jump of $100 million from the last one, making it, at the time, the most expensive movie ever.
Wow, that's crazy to look at that number and say that's the most expensive movie, and then look at movies now.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a pretty expensive movie, but the first one, I think, had like a $70 million budget, so it only got a bump of 40 for the second one, and then to go to 100 for the next one is a little bit crazy to me.
Yeah, it's also interesting how they went from 100 from the second to third one, instead of bumping it more from the first to second one. Does that make sense?
I know, yeah. I guess it's because at that point, 2 movies had proven that it's worth it, and you've kind of got that series recognition going on.
I mean, go home or go big or go home, so.
Now, this movie, I did say, was inspired by a couple different storylines, 2 in particular. One was called The Gifted. That was the one written by Joss Whedon. That story features the Cure that we see in this movie, or a version of it, I guess. And then the other one, obviously, being the Dark Phoenix saga, which is where the Dark Phoenix comes into town, takes over Jean, and things go south real quick.
So, did you say they combine the 2?
Yeah, there's elements of both of those stories in this movie.
Okay, sorry, continue.
Not paying attention?
No, I was paying attention, I just wasn't paying attention. Continue.
Okay, cool. So there's some characters that were considered for this movie. This movie was actually being produced or planned alongside X-Men Origins, which is very interesting considering that movie didn't come out until 2008, I think, 7 or 8. Actually, now I'm curious. What year did that come out? Wrong movie. 9. That movie didn't come out till 2009. That's 3 years after this one released. So it's weird that was in development for such a long time, but they didn't use Gambit, partially because of that, also partially because they couldn't find a good way to do him. They didn't have enough time to have him done correctly. And there's a bunch of other people they couldn't use because of that movie. And also, Nightcrawler is not in this movie, because of money. He had a very small role in the script, and it's a lot of money and time to get all that makeup on him, and so they just cut him.
Man, Caleb, Gambit, not being able to use him. I mean, they should have just hired Channing Tatum, because we all know how good he does because that movie came out, you know? Wait a second.
You're forgetting he was in Origins.
No, I know. I don't like that version at all. At all.
You and the rest of the country.
And I'm sad Nightcrawler is not in here, honestly. Nightcrawler is one of my favorite X-Men. I don't know why. I think he's so funny, and I think he's so cool, and he's also kind of creepy, and I don't know. It's great, and it's sad that they cut him out because, like you probably talked about last week, which I haven't listened to yet, but he's in that movie, and then they just leave him out of this one. Like,
It would have been nice for continuity's sake, because even though there's a lot of stuff that happens in these movies, it kind of feels like part of things reset every time. Not as much as like maybe a Marvel MCU type movie, but I don't know, it's a little weird. So it would have been nice to have him here. Another reason that they didn't include him was because apparently he would have done a lot of the same beats as Beast, and you don't need two redundant characters.
That actually makes sense. Yeah, Beast kind of takes the role that he had in the last movie.
Exactly. All right. So I do want to talk about, just like last week, this movie's place in history. So this movie came out in 2006, and a lot of movies had come out since. The last one was X-Men 2. That came out in 2003, and at that point, we really only had, like I said last week, the Supermans, the Batmans, the first Spider-Man, Daredevil, Blade 2, not very much. But in between these two, we had Hulk, Hellboy, The Punisher, Spider-Man 2, Catwoman, Blade Trinity, Elektra, Constantine, Batman Begins, Fantastic Four, V for Vendetta. This is when things blew up. And that's really interesting because aside from Spider-Man 2, none of those other movies took off in the way that X-Men did. Like, this series was probably the biggest superhero movie that was out at the time. Aside from Spider-Man 2, of course. Batman Begins was starting to get big, but The Dark Knight hadn't come out yet, so it hadn't reached the heights. And so I think that this is a really good movie to look towards, to say, look, this is where the bubble burst. We had some great movies. We had X2, we had Spider-Man 2, we had a couple decent ones, like we have Hellboy, and we have Batman Begins, which is good, but a lot of the rest of these aren't good, or they aren't perceived really well. That's the bubble getting bigger until this movie hits and it bursts.
I completely agree. And you can see the clear difference between, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, between X-Men 1 and this movie. Specifically me, because I did not watch X-Men 2 with you guys last week. So me coming into this going straight from 1 to 3, I can definitely see the things that they changed. And not only the things that they changed, but the things that they kept the same, but they should have changed over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Definitely. All right, so let's get into it then.
I'm excited.
So this movie opens up, and last week I said all these original movies open up with a monologue. I was dead wrong, because this movie opens up with no monologue, which surprised me.
Yeah, I thought, like I told you before we started recording, going into this movie, I thought I remembered exactly everything in this movie, because I'd seen it several times. And I was almost positive that when you mentioned the monologue, that this movie had one too. And it opened up and I said, something's missing.
Yeah. So they actually did record a monologue. There's a deleted scene where you can hear it. It's not great, actually. Like, it's okay. But it doesn't feel like it would fit the way they're doing this, because we start with a flashback before we even get to where the monologue would be. You know? Yeah,
you're talking about whenever the movie, well, obviously you're talking about this, but Professor X and Magneto are going to visit Jean Grey when she's a child.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that a lot of people point to this as really bad de-aging and how it looks.
I think it looks good. Bad.
I think this looks really good.
It's 2006. I mean,
even for now, I think it's passable.
It's not. Now, you can obviously look at them and tell that work's been done, but it's not like they're standing out like a sore thumb.
No, it doesn't look like they use CGI and smoothed everything over. It looks like maybe they have some makeup on, and that's making them look younger, but it doesn't look... It's nowhere near the level of hatred that I'm used to hearing about this.
No, yeah, I agree. That was literally the first thing I put in my notes. I said, hey, the de-aging looks pretty good.
Yeah, and we do get our Stanley cameo here at the beginning, which is pretty nice, as the water is rising from the hose.
Dramatic. I like it.
And then we jump forward really quickly to another flashback of a young Warren Worthington? I think that's right. Warren Worthington III, also known as Angel. We get a lot of mutants in this movie that were supposed to be in the previous two. Angel is one of those. And so it's nice to see him here. And I think that he looks pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, watching this movie again now with how, I guess when I was younger, I just didn't really think about it, but what he's doing is excruciatingly painful. He's grinding down his own skin to try to get rid of these wings that are just now starting to come out of his back. And I mean, there's blood everywhere, and he's taking like grinding slips, which is totally not what they're called, but I mean,
graters.
Yeah, and he's just going at it. And I thought, like, I was thinking about it, I was like, this poor kid, you know?
Yeah, every time I watch this now, I cringe because this is really intense stuff.
I mean, I guess when I was a kid, I just never thought about it. But now, I mean, this is intense. Like, this movie starts and I'm like, wow. This really shows how much mutants are kind of looked down on right now.
Yeah, and especially this is 10 years before. So this probably would have been... well, I don't know, because we don't know how much time has been between each movie, but several years before the first X-Men movie, so things are still looking bad.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of things that we were supposed to get in the previous movies, we also get the Danger Room here at the beginning, and this is pretty awesome. It's a lot of people get mad at the scene because they feel they were cheated. They feel that they were given it, and they're like, oh, look, this is awesome, this is what the movie is, and it's just a training sequence, but... I really like this scene.
I think, Caleb, this is, when you were talking about things that this movie does right, I think this is one scene that the movie does right. I love this scene. Now, I do have a question during this scene, though. So, Colossus is in here, correct?
Yeah.
And there is, fireballs going on, and rockets, and things are flying everywhere, and a piece of rubber comes flying at Kitty Pryde. Or, no. I don't remember who's Colossus with. Colossus is beside somebody, and he grabs onto them, and he makes them metal, too. Can he do that?
No, that was Rogue.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. I was sitting there, and I was thinking, what is happening? He can't do that? I was like, have I always missed this? Like... I was so confused because then he never did it for the rest of the movie. And I was like, are you just going to break like accuracy for that one scene? Okay. Wow. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, definitely Rogue.
Okay.
We do finally get a different Kitty Pryde in this movie. We'd seen her in the last couple, but we get a full-on version of her played by Ellen Page, who I think does a fantastic job, especially in this, man, I can't think. Love triangle, goodness.
Oh, I would agree.
Between her, Rogue, and Iceman.
I'd agree. And I think she just does good all throughout the movie, personally.
Oh, yeah, I think she's great casting.
Now, I was just going to say, here we also get to see, we're kind of teased with it at first. You see these giant glowing eyes, right? And for all the viewers that love comic books, you're like, okay, I know what that is. That's a Sentinel, obviously. And I forgot that we actually get to see the head of it in here. I thought it just teased it and we never actually got to see it.
Yeah, we do get to see the head. It's not exactly how they are in the comics, but it's pretty freaking close. I do wish that we could have seen the entire thing in all of its glory, because the Sentinels that we do get later on in Days of Future Past are pretty disappointing.
I would completely agree. I think, based off the head of this one, I think this would have been a way better design.
But the reason we see that head is because Wolverine gets thrown up there to take it off. And this is actually something from the comics where Colossus grabs Wolverine and throws him. This is called a fastball special. It happens a couple times in this movie, and it is a staple of both of those characters in the comics. I
did not know that.
Yep.
That's cool.
There you go. Later on, we get to see Scott interacting with Wolverine, and man... Scott is still a jerk. I don't know what they've done to him in this series, but I feel for the fans that are upset because he's their favorite character, because he just gets the shaft.
I agree. Wolverine comes up and he's trying to be sentimental. He's trying to be caring and he's trying to help him. And Scott just kind of looks at him like, dude, like, mind your own business. And I can't just help but to feel for Wolverine,
Yeah, and let's talk about Scott here. Scott is in this movie for the first 20 minutes, And by the first 20 minutes, I mean, he dies at the 20-minute mark. But he only has, what, maybe 3 minutes of screen time in this entire movie, if that?
I think you're right.
So part of the reason is James Marsden, who plays him, was cast in Superman Returns. I guess he went with Bryan Singer when he went over there. But this just feels wrong. It's almost like, well, actually they do. They kill him off screen. Mostly. You kind of see it, but they basically take the leader of this team, throw him off to the side, say, you're not important.
Yeah, they kind of... It's not even just that, though. It's that... And I have another problem with this at the end of the movie that we'll talk about, but this is the leader that we have followed for the past 2 movies, right? His death should be more impactful and should be something that you're able to see and appreciate, but also feel for, instead of just, like you said, casting him aside.
Yeah, and one of the complaints about this movie is there are far too many deaths, and there are. We'll get to it, but we've got Professor X, we've got Jean Grey again, we've got Scott. I mean, for most of this movie, we're down to only 2 of the original X-Men members, Wolverine and Storm, and it's a travesty that Storm gets this much time and Cyclops doesn't.
I would agree, and not only that, Caleb, talking about killing, I'm gonna wait till the end, but I have a pretty good estimate of the body count of kills for this movie. That's
interesting.
Actually really interesting, and that's why I looked it up, because it'll kind of shock you.
Okay. But we do jump ahead pretty quickly and we meet Beast. This is our first introduction to Beast, another character that was supposed to be in the previous 2 movies. He is now the secretary of the Department of Mutant Affairs, and we see that the president that we saw in the last movie is no longer the president. We have a new president now, and this one seems to be far more sympathetic to mutants.
Yes, Okay, so here's my thing with Beast, right? I like him. I like him in this movie, right?
Okay.
I like him, but something seems off, like with his design. Was that just me?
No, I disagree. I 100% disagree. You're probably saying that because you're comparing it to the versions of Beast that are in the newer movies.
I don't like the newer Beast though. I hate the newer Beast. It's just, I don't know why. It just, something seemed off, and I don't know. It could be. I don't know. It just, something seemed off, and I didn't know if you felt the same way or I was just, being crazy.
I think you're on an island here. I think most people really like his look. It is so incredibly close to the comics version. I don't know how you could do better.
I don't know what it is. I'm not saying that he could be better. Maybe I just don't like... Maybe it was that he was wearing regular clothes to me that threw me off. I don't know. Or maybe it's I don't know. We should probably move on. I don't know why.
Well, I do really like the references in this movie talking about his time there, because it's very clear that he used to be a regular X-Men. I mean, they talk about it a couple times. He brings out his jacket at one point and says he's surprised it ever fit him.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that's really cool.
Yeah, I will say, I like the interactions he has this entire movie. I really like the interaction, specifically with him. Some of the other characters' interactions are kind of lackluster, but with him, I feel like the characters are more genuine with.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, so let's move on to your next note. Black guy is Bolivar Trask. Nice, Caleb. Yeah. Nice.
So, in the, I don't know what it is, the not the danger room, whatever it is, at the White House, the room with the president and all the people.
The danger room?
No.
I think it's... I'm pretty sure that's what they call it, too.
Okay, well, whatever that room is, I think there's only one black guy at the table, but he's the black guy that talks. He is playing Bolivar Trask, and the reason that's important is because Bolivar Trask in the comics is the inventor of the Sentinels. He is actually a villain. This version is nothing like that. We actually get a sort of closer version of that character in Days of Future Past, played by Peter Dinklage, who does, again, a more close version. But this guy is here. It feels like a waste to bring him in. I think it's more of an Easter egg for him to be here, but just so you know, that's who he is.
I didn't know that. I knew that somebody with the last name of Trask did. I didn't know his first name was Bolivar, too.
Yep, he is.
Oh, that's a really cool Easter egg.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? You don't like it?
I mean, it feels like a throwaway, wasted thing, you know?
I mean, okay, fair enough.
We do get a couple shots of Mystique here, and I think that this movie's CG looks better than the last movie's CG with Mystique. There's some shots that I was actually very impressed with.
Yeah, no, Mystique, again, like I said in the first one, I love Mystique. And she continues to impress me throughout this movie as well. She is very believable as a character in this movie.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And Beast does end up taking his time and going over to the X-Mansion where he meets up with the people. Before that, though, we see Professor X in a classroom setting, which is always nice to see. And we see a video, and I've never caught this before, but we see a video of this woman on the TV who is Moira Mactaggert. Now, we know this character from an X-Men movie, First Class. The woman that helps Professor X in that movie is Moira Mactaggert.
Oh.
Yeah, she is a very big character in the X-Men comics. The book that I'm currently reading right now, it's an X-Men book, and she's in it. She's one of the main characters. It's odd that they chose to include her this way and make her, again, such a small cameo part. But we'll talk about her again at the end.
That's really cool. I never got that either.
Yeah, huh. I know, right? The things you know.
Man, they do have their meeting stuff every day.
They do have their meeting with Beast here. It's fine. Furball. The banter's kind of nice. And we get our introduction to the mutant cure, which is being made at Alcatraz prison.
So, I want to go back for a second, Caleb, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, this goes back to the lake scene with Jean and Scott, right?
Okay.
At the very beginning. Or, not the very beginning, but, I mean, we're basically there, you know. Because this is when Professor X is teaching this class right now, this is whenever he gets the, like, signaling, right? That something's wrong at the lake?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we see before this how Jean Grey comes out, you know, and is talking to Scott, and they kiss. Is she stealing life from him?
That's what it looks like.
Okay. Because I didn't know, I couldn't tell. I forgot that they had the explanation later that Professor X said basically she cocooned herself, you know. But I don't know if I like this scene. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a really weird scene. I remember thinking she looked really, this is going to sound bad, but she looked really skinny, like an oddly skinny version of herself in that scene, specifically when she comes out of the water. And it all just feels off. I mean, it's supposed to, but it's weird.
That's what I thought. Ever since the first time that I've seen this scene, I don't know. I can't connect with. I don't know what it is. It's just not good to me. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just curious what you thought, because that really stands out in this movie as a big thing to me.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was weird, but I didn't, like, it doesn't stand out to me.
Okay.
I do want to talk about Alcatraz for a second. It's incredibly symbolic, and I'm sure they did this on purpose, to make the cure in Alcatraz, because it's a prison, and by taking the cure, you are imprisoning yourself to be a human, or flipping that, by taking the cure, you are freeing yourself to be human.
Exactly.
And I just thought that was interesting. And weren't people held at Alcatraz against their will or something?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. That's one of the most famous spots that people were held against their will at in America.
I think most prisoners are held against their will, but I mean, like...
I don't know. I think most of them are there by choice, Caleb.
No, not legal ones.
No, but yeah, I like the decision that they made it at Alcatraz, and it also makes... Wow, okay, let's try that again. It also makes sense considering they say, you know, it's the most secure spot we could find.
Yeah, which I don't think is true, but...
I don't know. I mean, it's super remote, Caleb.
It's on an island.
Yeah, which is literally the definition of remote.
No, that's not the definition of remote. It's in the middle of a city.
Okay, well, on an island.
Okay.
You have to have a boat. I mean, unless you can, like, I don't know, do something crazy and, like, move an entire bridge, which nobody can do.
Yeah. Good bridge, though. I'm surprised it survived that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that once we get to that point.
Okay. Now, one of the things that they did in this movie, which I both like and kind of dislike, is they brought in a ton of mutants, most of which are actually people from the comics. You wouldn't know it by looking at them, because they look completely different. But we've got Spike is in here. We've got some other guy that I thought was Spike that's not Spike. We've got all kinds of people. Like, most of the people on the Brotherhood side are people from the comics. And part of me likes this a lot, because this is the first movie that I really felt like there were more mutants than the X-Men, because the other two have felt so small and closed off.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's so many. It's not really hard to keep track of because they look so different, but they seem almost thrown away.
Yeah, I don't know. This movie at some point seems too big to me. I like how the other movies were kind of more self-contained.
Well, it is the most expensive movie that was made at the time.
Okay, well, I mean, you're right. But saying that, a movie can be too big and take you out of the experience.
Oh, definitely.
And I think at some points this movie does this, and I think sometimes it tries to throw too many things at you at one time. And, like, I don't know. For some reason, having all these different mutants, and like you said, not even knowing who they are, for me, I'm like, looking in there and I'm like, oh, do I know any of these people? You know, are there, like, Easter eggs here? And it kind of just, I don't know, it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah. I can understand that. What did you think of Wolverine in this movie? Did you like him?
He seemed more like not as put together.
Yeah,
so I don't know. It's like during the first two movies he had a stylist at the mansion, right? And then the last movie they quit and his personality just went completely different too.
Yeah, so you noticed the hair too then?
Oh, definitely. It's not as like well groomed, I guess.
Yeah, it looks super messy. His beard looks really nappy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never ever noticed this before because I've never watched them all back to back like this. But he's got like no gel in his hair. It looks gross, to be honest.
Yep, it looks like they tried to just get it to stay there with the hair dryer. Like they just tried to dry it that way.
Or hairspray.
Oh yeah, or hairspray, and it doesn't work. I mean,
yeah, it does not look good. The last two look much better. I know it looks a little bit more plasticky because it's filled with gel, but weird. And also, I felt like he now looks older again. He kind of looks more like the version that we know, like I mentioned. Oh well, you weren't on last week. Courtney and I thought he looked younger in the movie last week.
Okay,
younger than the first one.
I was looking for this movie. I saw a trailer for the second one and I actually watched that because I didn't watch the second movie, so I was trying to jog my memory a little bit. And he does look a lot younger in the second one.
Yeah, I guess it's the budget they had, but this one, he's aged a little bit. You can actually tell he's growing into the person we know today and how he looks. So I guess that's good, but the hair was, man, definitely throwing me.
Yeah, it was a little weird. Maybe, now that I think about it, maybe that's what bugs me with Beast, right? I think it's his beard. His beard is like super... I was just thinking about it. His beard is like super long on the sides, like really, really long and really mangly. And like...
It's not really a beard. It's more like animal hair.
Well, I mean, I suppose. But maybe that's what it is.
Jacob hates animals. You heard it here first, folks.
Man, you're gonna get PETA coming after me. Better calm down.
All right, let's talk about the caravan attack.
Yes.
So this is one of the scenes that I remember a lot from this movie. Mostly because of Mystique. It's a really big deal that they take away her powers here. And, I guess you could even count this as a death. The death of Mystique, because she's no longer Mystique.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big...
I was just going to say, even though she's no longer Mystique, she's still an awful person, as we see later in the movie.
I disagree. She turned Eric in.
No. Oh, okay, you think that happened. Okay. Alright. I think, we're just going to skip ahead for a second, okay? Is that cool? Just for a quick second?
Yeah, we don't have to go in order. I'm just kind of...
Okay. So, when she goes, and they say that she turned Eric in, right? In their entire, like, mutant camp. What I thought had happened was that she knew they weren't there anymore. And actually, now thinking about it, yours makes a lot more sense. Because the way I was thinking of it was like, she was purposely doing it to lead them to a trap, or to just disguise where the real group was at. But thinking about it, Magneto's pretty smart, and I feel like he knew, hey, she's going to turn us in, let's go ahead and set up this trap.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's no benefit for her to lead them there, because nothing ends up happening. They just catch the guy.
Well, I mean, she loves Eric.
But, nothing bad happened to the good guys.
You're right. You're probably right. I don't know. That's really interesting. This is one reason that I love talking about these movies, because there's certain things like this that you can just think about, and someone else say something, and you're like, you just destroyed my entire thought. Wow. Okay. That's 12 years down the drain.
Well, by the way, I did notice Mystique has no voice modulation in this movie.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Why? Yeah, both the last two had it.
Yeah, why did they... Do you know why they just got rid of it?
I'm guessing it's just like Storm and Rogue's accents. They just decided not to.
That's true. Okay, fair enough. Now, I was just going to say...
Goodness, Jacob, come on. You keep trying to talk over.
I'm terribly sorry.
This is my podcast. I'm putting my foot down.
I'm trying to take ownership. Tricks
on
you.
Sounded really mean.
No, you're fine. Tricks on you. I'm editing. I'm gonna edit you out of the entire thing, and they just get to hear me talk to myself.
That would be hilarious. Please do that.
So I was just gonna say, you said you were talking about Mystique in this, the caravan, right? I think that the child actress that Mystique turns into, the little kid, and she's begging to let her go. I don't know what it is. She does an amazing part here. She says, I wrote it down because I don't know why, but when she said it, it shook my bones. She said, when I get out of here, I'm going to kill you myself. And this girl is 9 years old, and she has a death stare on her face.
Yeah, I think all women have that.
She just reached into her inner self. Understandable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think she's that good now. No, but I don't know what it was. That stood out to me because I love Mystique as a character by herself, but that was just I was like, ooh, my bones shivered.
We are introduced to a couple of new mutants in the caravan, though. What's so funny?
I like how I said that, and you said, yeah. So, we are.
Just trying to keep it moving.
Oh man, this podcast is a bit of a loop today.
We get Multiple Man, who is the guy that ultimately leads them to that trap. He is from the comics. His power is pretty much exactly what you see here. But someone that's different is the Juggernaut. Now, we got a far more comic-accurate version just last year in Deadpool 2. This version is kind of the Juggernaut. I mean, he's got the main power where he can run through things. But Juggernaut is not a mutant. In the comics, he actually gets his powers from, I believe it's a magical gem, a mystical gem that grants him his powers. And in the comics, he's also the brother of Professor X.
So, I wanted to say something about Multiple Man, Caleb.
Okay, we're just skipping Juggernaut?
Well, you talked about Juggernaut second. So, I was going to talk about Multiple Man first, and then Juggernaut.
Okay.
You see? Following how you did it. So, actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about Juggernaut first.
What a fickle man.
Well, I like to go with the crowd, with the masses. So,
with the Multiple Man.
Oh, I see what you did there. But we're talking about Juggernaut now, Caleb. Come on, get with the program. So, in this movie, he's a mutant, right? Like you said. But in the Deadpool movie, he is not. Correct?
Correct. You're just repeating the things I just said.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure everybody that, in case you didn't know, we just had a really big technical difficulty. So, but we're fine. We're back on track now. So, I like the Juggernaut that we get in Deadpool so much more than this one. Now, saying that, I don't think this Deadpool is a bad... wow. I don't think this Juggernaut is a bad representation at all. In fact, I think this one fits better in for this movie. But, I don't know. I like how he has the accent, and I like his costume, or, his wardrobe, whatever you want to call it. And I like how in this one he wears the thing on top of his head to stop, to keep his face pretty, as he says. But what do you think about, his character, in the movie?
I mean, his accent's not supposed to be this accent. So, I mean, that's whatever. He's big and dumb like the Juggernaut, so, I mean, he's fine.
I don't know what it was. And maybe...
You're having some big issues with the characters in this movie.
I know, man. I don't know. In case you guys didn't realize this, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. So, maybe I'm just reaching. I'm just grabbing the air, trying to find why I don't like the movie as much as I thought I would. But, I don't know. There's some things that stand out to me, and Juggernaut's just kind of one of them. But, saying that, Multiple Man... I love in this movie.
What?
Yeah, I love his character. And I was actually so interested with his character that I went and looked up his backstory and stuff in the comics, right?
He's got less screen time than Cyclops.
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe. No, you're probably right. but what screen time he does have, he nails it, Caleb. That's what it is.
Okay.
So, I just wanted to say something that was really interesting. In the comics, right, he was born, and
Whoa.
the doctor... I know! Crazy! Shut up. So, he was born, and the doctor did something and slaps him, and he multiplies, right? And that's when they figure out how he has this mutation, right? Well, Professor X actually... tells his parents that they need to go to a remote location. Okay? So, and this is not long. It's kind of short, but I just wanted to say. So, and Professor X builds him something to keep his powers kind of subdued. Right? Well, tragic story. His parents ended up dying before they could tell him that his clothes keep him from multiplying. He figures out he can multiply, and he becomes a... kind of like rogue character. He's not good, but he's not bad at the same time. It's kind of weird. But the most interesting thing about him, and I know this is a little bit of tangent, but I don't care because it's awesome.
It's only more of a tangent because you keep saying it.
Okay, well, I'm going to read this exactly like I wrote it in my notes, okay? So, when Multiple Man grew up, he had a very big story in the comics where a duplicate of himself didn't want to rejoin, so the duplicate began his own life, right? And so the duplicate ended up becoming really bad, and the real Multiple Man was actually good. And so they ended up squaring off, and they were standing beside each other, and it was kind of like that meme with the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other, Mm-hmm. And they were both trying to say, hey, I'm the real one, you're the fake one. And so the actual fake one convinces the real one that the fake one is real. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So the real one walks up to the fake one and rejoins him. But the fake one doesn't realize that the real Multiple Man inside of him is actually slowly disassembling the fake one from the inside out. And so the real one regains complete control.
Whoa.
And I thought that was awesome.
I was going to say that that's like the Clone Saga and Spider-Man, but then it took a turn, and it's not.
Isn't that awesome, though? Like, that's a super cool storyline.
Yeah, in the Spider-Man comics, the real Peter Parker actually thought that his clone was the original for a long time.
What?
Yep.
That's cool. Clones are so cool. Man. Okay. Well, we can continue now. I was looking him up because I was curious, because whenever I didn't understand his power, I didn't realize if he was actually cloning himself or they were like projections of himself. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I was going to have a complaint saying that the thermal camera shouldn't have seen all of them because they're just projections. But they are actually copies.
Tricks on
so that
you.
makes sense. I know, man. They knew I was going to look that up and they said, nope, not today.
So Hank ends up resigning from his position because political stuff. And Jean wakes up and wants to be killed because she knows something's wrong. And none of that's all that important to me. The thing that I'm noticing at this point is we're about 44 minutes in, which is less time than you've been listening to this podcast, actually. And I am like, the last movie I had issues with the pacing. This movie, I am not feeling the length at all. This movie is paced really, really well.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. You texted me and you were like, hey, what time are we recording? And I was like, I don't know. I probably have an hour left of this, maybe 40 minutes. And I clicked on it and it was like 20 minutes left. And I was like, oh, wow. Like you don't really feel it pass by at all.
Yeah, it's structured in a way that brings you into it much more than the last one, which is kind of strange, I think, considering the last one is liked a lot more. But yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining. But in that 44 minutes, we do finally get to Jean's house where she has gone rogue and everybody's trying to go find her. And this is where we get the big moment where Professor X dies. And I just want to say, Jacob, Phoenix did it first. Phoenix did... If I, I've just realized I'm bad at talking. I probably shouldn't be doing a podcast. Let me try this again.
Too late now, Caleb.
Just want to say, Phoenix did it first. Hashtag Thanos plagiarized.
Yes, Caleb. Completely. And this is my biggest problem with the entire movie. This scene right here.
How Thanos plagiarized it?
Exactly. Unbelievable. He didn't cite his sources. And he's getting kicked out of college. Okay, I love this scene up to the point before Professor X dies. Okay? So, I love the raw power that the Phoenix is showing. And I love how, the house is elevated and Wolverine's inside and he's fighting at the same time while it's, elevated in the sky. And I also love how Magneto tells Juggernaut not to let anybody in the house, and the very first thing Juggernaut does is throws Wolverine through a window into the house.
That's true.
So, that's the first thing he does. But my problem here is not the confrontation between Jean Grey and Professor X. I love that. I love everything that's happening. My problem is that Professor X dies, and it's not impactful at all.
What?
I do not think so, Caleb. Shut up.
No, I'm being serious. Like, legitimately. Yeah.
No, you
I've
aren't.
got written in my notes, quote, very epic moment.
What? No, Caleb.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay. It's awesome how he dies, and I think it's super cool and everything that happens. My problem with it is that not that it was cool and not that it was like the right way for Professor X to go, but my problem is that it does not impact you as much as it should. Okay, Professor X is the person that started all of these. None of this would exist without him, and he dies, and the most you get is a small funeral scene that lasts less than like a minute, and Logan like crying for like 5 seconds.
I disagree. I disagree.
That's all you get.
I disagree very much with what you're saying.
Well, there's right people like me and wrong people like you, Caleb.
In fact, when it was happening, the music was swelling, Wolverine was trying to get in, things were happening, it went slow-mo, he said his thing, and he exploded. I was like, wow, that was really well done. That was very intense. Then we cut to a funeral scene. Guess what, Jacob? A lot of people have died. We only get a funeral for one person. It's Professor X.
Okay, wise guy.
They struggle with what to do with the school in this movie. Because of him, they show the entire school mourning. This is not swept under the rug.
And I'm not even saying necessarily that it's swept under the rug. I know that there's lasting impacts from his death that they deal with throughout the movie, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that he vanishes and he's like gone. You know, he's just dust. Maybe that's what it is. And there's no body to mourn over. There's no, for example,
so
like in
what you're telling me is that at the end of Infinity War, you were like, oh well, you know,
okay,
no big deal. There's no body, so I guess it's not real.
Listen here, okay? I don't know. I was expecting to be hit in the gut with this, right? And
you
now
know what the problem is?
I have no feelings.
You skipped a movie.
You're right. That could be what it is.
I don't know. I'm just kidding.
I don't know, Caleb. This scene, it doesn't let me down because I love this entire scene. I love it. But just my biggest problem within the movie, if I had to pick one specific one, would be and word it correctly without dissing on the scene, because I like the scene, but it would be that Professor X did not have as big of a lasting of impact that he should have had given everything he's done for all of these people.
Disagree, but okay.
Okay, well, now that I got on my soapbox,
I mean, I can only try to tell you're wrong so many times, you know? I mean, when you're wrong, you just don't think you're wrong, and Jacob, I've known you for a long time, and believe me, you're wrong, but you're just not going to think you're wrong, and it's okay. I can get you a counselor for that.
Caleb, there are people that budge, and then there is me, okay? So, at least I'm consistent.
Yeah, I like this scene.
I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a really cool scene. I love seeing Phoenix's powers. They are stupendous. I love her powers, and just you really feel them through the screen in this movie to me. Not only at the ending, but this. I mean, this is in a neighborhood, and after everything happens, you see this house drop, and it is devastated. And, I mean, the bad guys have won. You know, like, this is not, you know, yay for the good guys. You know, we fixed the day. This is, wow, we just lost someone big, even if it wasn't as big as it should have been. And it's like, wow. You know, so I do like about this scene. Phoenix is stupendous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's... Yes, I don't know what to say. There is actually an extended cut of this fight scene where something cool and kind of confusing happens. So when Juggernaut throws Logan into the house, in the full version, Logan actually stabs him through the arm first, and then the Juggernaut doesn't seem phased, which I don't understand that, because I'm pretty sure that he feels pain. But once they're inside and fighting, he, like, stabs him in the back of the neck, and he's still fine. And then he...
Oh, wait. I think I've seen this.
I don't know, you might have. But then...
Is this like it's in the deleted scene of, like, the Blu-ray, right?
Well, I have it on DVD, but yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think me and you watched this together, Caleb.
I don't know, but I'm telling the audience about it.
Sorry.
So, so he's got, like, one hand, one claw, three claws in Juggernaut's neck, and then he puts the other one up to Storm, and she lightning bolts the metal, which conducts through Logan and into the Juggernaut.
I lied. I have not seen this.
Yeah.
Why didn't they keep that? That's awesome.
Because that would have killed him, and then he wouldn't have been at the end.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, you say that, but Juggernaut also got electrocuted in Deadpool and did not die.
That's a different Juggernaut, though.
But one and the same.
So, anyway, let's move on from this. We've talked about this for a while. There's a couple more scenes before we get to the end. Is there anything you want to talk about there? Because I'm ready to just go to the end.
Okay, there's a few super quick things. Angel, this is right before the scene. Angel's entrance as an adult, where he bursts out with his wings, is amazing.
Yeah, that is a good, and not so much scene, but a good shot.
Yes, sorry. Good shot. Yes, I love that shot. Also, just going by kind of quick, I love the scene with Bobby and Kitty Pryde and the ice skating.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really cool, nice scene to kind of ease the tension of all the fight scenes beforehand and of the future. Here's my question, and I've always wondered this, Caleb, with these X-Men movies. Magneto can control Logan because of his, in this movie I forget, it's vibranium. No, adamantium.
It's adamantium, Jacob. I'm very disappointed in you right now because
I'm sorry.
Because you got that wrong, but it's
I fixed myself.
It's adamantium.
I fixed myself, though.
Sounds painful.
Okay. So, shut up. So, why doesn't Magneto just bend Wolverine's skeleton and kill him? Or at least, disable him where he can't do anything? He always just pushes him back. Why not just, break his back and bend him, in a pretzel?
So I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but I don't think he wants to kill him.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm interested to see what you have to say about that. And yeah, my next note is on the Golden Gate Bridge, so yeah, we're at the end.
So let's talk about the Golden Gate Bridge. Starting off, this effect is phenomenal. It still looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Moving this bridge across, I've seen a lot of movies, and I don't know, there are very few things that come close to how majestic this is, which is a little strange because I didn't remember it being majestic or awe-inspiring or anything, but it is.
Yeah, I love this scene. I like how they walk on the bridge and they're moving everything, and then he just rips it from its foundation. It's very wow. You can really take it in, and it doesn't, like you said, it's 13 years later. It doesn't look bad at all.
Yeah, definitely.
And my only thing with this is not anything that, CGI-wise or anything really, but I just wanted to point out and say that bridge would not have held up like that.
Oh, yeah.
That bridge would have crumbled, and as soon as he set it down, just completely fell into the water.
Well, what's funny? It's a suspension bridge, but by the time he gets it over there, all of the suspensions are busted.
Yep. And if you look, this is, as he's moving it, it kind of sways a little bit.
Yeah.
Which would actually happen, but it's just funny because he plops it down, and I was looking, because there's one far-away shot that we get, and it kind of shows the entire thing, after he drops it. And I'm thinking, yeah, part of that should be underwater a little bit, and that should be crumbled, but it's still a super cool scene. It doesn't really take away from the movie. That's just nitpicking.
Yeah, true.
Also, sorry, I was just gonna ask, does Magneto have a limit to how much he can lift? Because that must be getting pretty close.
I was thinking about that. I think he does. I don't know that for a fact. I think he does, because otherwise he could actually, which I'm pretty sure he has done in the comics, change the magnetic poles of the Earth, which can really screw things up. But yeah, and it looks like this was very close to the max of his power. He looked like he was really struggling.
Yeah, and then, Jean Grey's just chilling in the background, even though she could have helped. That's nice. That's considerate.
All right, so here's one of my questions. He lays it down, and they've got guns. He thinks they're metal. They're not. And his people run in, and they all just get cured. Wouldn't it have made more sense to do the thing that he does later and grab a whole bunch of metal and cover his people so they don't get the cure?
Okay, here's my thought process is, I don't think so he gets here, right? And, oh wait, does he tell this matters, does he tell the people to rush before he tries to break the guns, or does he try to break the guns beforehand?
No, they rush before.
Okay, yeah, so they rush before, and I think he sticks his hand up, and he's like, wow, they're not made of metal. I think he's like, that's interesting. He didn't expect it, and so it took him a second. And honestly, I think he's trying to not kill as many people as possible.
No, I'm not saying he has to kill anyone, although I'm pretty sure he's down for killing. But what I'm saying is, he could have covered his people with a sheet of metal to keep them from hitting them. He could have put metal in front of the gun people to keep them from getting shot. I don't understand why he assembles this mass of people only to let like half of them just die, I mean, figuratively, right off the bat.
Well, see, Caleb, Magneto is someone that doesn't care about his people, and you can tell that. He doesn't care.
I disagree.
And I think...
I very, very much disagree.
You think he cares?
I think he cares about mutants.
Okay, yes, I think he cares about mutants, but I think it's one of those things where if he has to let 200 mutants die to save millions, he's fine with it. He doesn't care.
Right, that's true, but from a strategic level, there's absolutely no reason that they have to die.
I would say there's a little bit of reason. I think it creates chaos, right? And so, in the middle of that chaos, it allows Juggernaut to be able to rush in. And so, anybody that's on the inside of the building, any guards or anything, are going to come outside to see what all the chaos is about. And they're going to be very busy and not pay any attention that people are sneaking around inside the facility.
The Juggernaut doesn't come in until the X-Men get there. And it's not
Okay.
chaotic. It's a standstill.
Well, Caleb, I don't know. Go ask the director.
All right. Here's where I've also got more questions about why didn't Magneto? Okay. You asked why Magneto didn't curl Logan into a ball. I said,
yes.
I don't think he wants to kill him. Even if that's not true, I don't know if he can because of how strong adamantium is, he can definitely bend it. But to curl it into a ball, I don't know if he can do that.
Do you think it's too strong for him to be able to do it?
Potentially. But my question is, why doesn't he just take Logan and throw him at the bottom of the lake? Or the river?
See, I've thought about this before too. And the only solution that I can really come up with is, secretly, I kind of think that Magneto is a little bit like the Joker in Batman, right? I think that he likes having people against him because he's so cocky that he thinks he's going to win. I think he likes the competition. And I think he likes having someone that he can just completely toss around wherever. Because every single time he does it, I mean, he's just utterly destroying Logan. Like, Logan, that'd be embarrassing. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? And so I think Magneto is enjoying that. And at the same time, I think that he secretly doesn't want to kill the X-Men because, like you said, he actually does care about mutants.
I think he's fine with killing the X-Men. Like, if he has to. Which is another one of my questions. Why doesn't he just grab a bunch of cars and kill the X-Men as they're standing there? Like,
I've always wondered that.
He has more than enough opportunity. And if he didn't want to kill them, why not wrap them in a car so they can't move?
But then again, he wouldn't have that competition then.
Okay, well, here's my real question. Magneto literally picked up the Golden Gate Bridge and sat it down.
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't he just lift the room out of the basement of this facility?
I was wondering that. I don't think the room is made out of metal.
There's metal in there. It's Alcatraz. It wasn't built to be something that is good against him.
Yes, but I think this room specifically, obviously was modified, and so they probably deconstructed it and they modified it into whatever. I think it's concrete that surrounds it.
Yeah, but normally in the middle of concrete, you've got those metal rebar.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, Caleb. Obviously, that wouldn't make the movie as good as it is, which is not very good.
I don't know.
So
I would have liked to see him completely rip apart a building.
I mean, okay, what it comes down to is we could go back and forth all day with why they didn't do this and that. But the problem is, I mean, we don't actually know because a lot of it's not explained in the movie.
True. That's a very diplomatic answer.
So, I mean, yeah. What do you, while we're talking about this, what do you think about, so Juggernaut's ability, right, basically says that he's strong and while he's moving, he can't hardly be stopped, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so when Kitty Pryde jumps into the ground and drags him down, which is awesome, by the way, how is he able to just jump up? Because his feet and knees are like 6, 7 feet down in solid dirt with concrete on top of it. How does he just jump out?
He's just also really strong.
Okay. I thought... Okay. That satisfies my question.
Yeah.
My weird thing with this is I love the entire fight scene. I love all of this. I think it's a little I don't know what the word is, like you could see it coming, how they like make the line and the X-Men stand in a line to stop them, like cliche maybe is the word.
Yeah.
But I mean that is the final stand.
And it also would
the
not
last stand.
Right, and it wouldn't have been very cliche at this point either.
Oh, that's true, because this is early on in the superhero franchise. Totally.
Yeah.
That's true. But my weird thing is, and I just wanted to point this out, it doesn't make the movie worse. So Magneto moves over the bridge and drops it, right? And it's like evening, it's like dinner time, right? The sun has not set yet. I mean, it is in the middle of setting. But then as soon as he drops the bridge, they start walking off, and it is all of a sudden pitch black. Like, pitch black.
Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot in movies, more than you think. I mean, I've seen the sun go down really fast. It's not that big a deal.
I mean, the sun's getting real low, Tiger. You know what I'm saying?
I do. You're calming
Is
me
that
down.
right?
Calming me down.
Okay, good.
No tiger.
Wanted to make sure.
No tiger.
Sun's getting real low.
Yeah.
That's it.
We do get the Iceman moment. Do you like the Iceman moment?
That was awesome. I love that.
He finally gets his full Iceman mode.
Which is, yeah, it's kind of like a tease because throughout the movie, they call him Iceman, I think 2 or 3 times. And then Pyro's doing that, and he's like, Iceman. And then he's like, whoopah, I am Iceman. And it's like, whoa.
Pyro actually does have more of a comic accurate thing. It's not his costume, but where he's got it, where it's coming down his wrist, where he can light fire.
Yeah, I was going to ask, he can only manipulate fire, right? Or can he create it too?
No, he can only manipulate it, so he has to have fire already. So in the comics, he wears, or used to wear, like this tank on his back that had pipes that come down to his hands, which is basically what he has here without the tank on his back.
Oh my, Caleb. You know what's crazy? We were talking about My Hero Academia during the first episode. You know who he reminds me of?
Bakugo.
Yeah.
Courtney and I were sitting there watching this one, and she's like, My Hero really is like this, isn't it? I'm like,
it really is.
It is. I mean, it's a school with superpowered people. I mean, that's pretty much as close as you can get.
They ripped off X-Men. I'm calling them. Do you have anything else about this last scene?
Oh, yeah, I got a couple things.
Okay, that's all I have,
right.
So you just go for it.
So Magneto gets cured.
Kind of.
Magneto gets cured. He gets hit with the cure.
Yes.
He goes down. He comes up. He's upset that he unleashed the Phoenix. So, what about all those other people that were hit with one of those things? Did they just stay down, or did they get up and run away too?
I think they all got up and run away because if not, then they just disintegrated because the camera zooms out and not one body's laying on the ground.
You know why?
Because Jean Grey's disintegrating all of them?
Because #Phoenix did it first.
Wow.
Let's get that started. Let's get that started. #Phoenix did it first. Come on. I want to see it. Let's make it a thing.
I'm going to post it all around my college campus. So
that happens, and really, the Phoenix just goes out in this end, and I gotta say, this is also pretty emotional. I think I've always thought this scene was pretty cool, where Logan is constantly walking towards her, and his body is constantly being blown away, like completely, and you get to see his metal skeleton at certain points,
which is awesome,
which is really cool, and it's just very poetic. That he has to kill the one he loves, that he's already watched die once. You know, I mean, think about it that way. Like, that's intense.
Oh, yeah. And they kind of hint at it whenever Audio Storm is like, are you prepared to do what you have to do when the time comes right? My question is, Wolverine's healing ability, it is pretty much instantaneous, right?
More or less.
So I knew it was more than Deadpool's, because, Deadpool's, takes a little bit. Okay. Because I was always curious, not this time necessarily watching it, but before I was like, I thought it took a little bit longer for him to heal. So this scene always kind of confused me a little bit. Not this time, but, okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. And there is this really cool circular CG shot of everybody disintegrating and everything. There's actually a different one, or a slightly longer one, that was deleted, which would have cost a ton of money. I can't believe they deleted it. And it just looks beautiful. Even now, 13 years later, still looks great.
Oh yeah, I love this final scene, Caleb. This is something else that I think the movie did great, as well as the Danger Room.
Yep. So they die. The movie's mostly over. We go back to the mansion. We see Logan and Storm, that are pretty much the only ones left at this point. There is a deleted scene where Hank also comes out as well. He's a professor there. He's talking about how they're going to have space problems. And that would be what, if we got another one in this series, a new team, those three people, and then whoever else is left, I guess Iceman and stuff. We do see that Rogue was cured, but it's interesting to note that I don't think they were sure that's what they were going to do, or they didn't want people to know, because they shot an alternate version where she couldn't go through with it.
Do you like it better that she went through with it, or would you have liked it better if she didn't?
Well, I wish she wouldn't have, because I think I just like that better, because it keeps her, and it makes sense for her to be there if she didn't go through with it and stuff, and it doesn't make sense for her to be there if she had. But from having the opposite side to see, if that makes sense, it makes more sense for her to have had it, so that we kind of see why it might be a good thing.
See, I like that she did it, because to me, this franchise started and she was there. You see her boyfriend, put him in a coma. And, you see her throughout this franchise, and one of the last things you see is that now she can live a normal life, and she can actually be with someone without, almost killing them.
I think a more satisfying conclusion to her would have been her being able to control it, but that's just me.
That would have been interesting, but I feel like that would have had to have more explanation, which would have taken away from the rest of the movie.
Well, one of the things that I haven't even thought about until now is Professor X is famous for helping mutants control their powers.
Yes.
We never, ever see that in any of these movies. The only thing we see, well, I mean, in the newer ones maybe, but this original series, we only hear about it. We hear about him helping Scott. We hear about him helping Jean. We never see that. And it would have been nice to see him help her, and her come to the point where she can control it, which I'm pretty sure she can in the comics.
You're right. That would have been cool to see. And I know that he does do that. I wonder why, maybe just from a timing perspective, they decided not to show it.
I don't know. They might have just not thought about it. Yep. We get the scene with Magneto where it's oh, the cure might not have worked.
Yeah, which is inevitable, I mean, you're not just gonna do that to Magneto.
It feels so tacked on, because this movie, in so many ways, feels like a conclusion to X-Men, but then you tack that on, and it's well, is it?
See, this doesn't feel as much as a conclusion to me as the next after credit scene does.
Oh, the one where Charles survives?
Yeah, and he's not even in his body. What is that?
Yeah, so you must have missed it earlier in the movie. So the woman that comes in there is also Moira Mactaggert that we talked about. Mm-hmm. This is the man we saw on the TV earlier, and he was talking about him being in a comatose state and whether it's right to use your powers on people like that. He transferred his consciousness.
Okay, that's awesome now that I realize that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so it's things like that are is it a conclusion? I think what happened was they didn't know what they wanted to do, and so they left it open either way.
I mean, yeah, and I feel like that's a smart thing to do, because they didn't leave anything major open, in my opinion. They left it off with this. I mean, other than Professor X, I feel like that's a little bit more than Magneto, but even with Magneto, I feel like this was a good place to stop.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a good conclusion, but a good place to stop.
Yeah, I guess so. There was one other scene that was deleted that I really liked thematically, where Logan goes back to Canada, and he walks into what I think is a bar, and he meets the same bartender from the first movie. And he sits at the bar, and the guy pours him a drink.
That's cool.
Yeah. I thought
that would have been cool.
I thought that was a really cool bookend.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah, so... Yeah.
So, Jacob, what did you think of this movie?
What did I think of this movie, Caleb? Okay. If I was a film critic, and I had to give this, one of those film critic things that they say, right? I would say a last grab for money. Okay.
I believe that's called a headline?
Indeed. Because, yes, okay. I like some aspects of this movie, of course. I love the danger room. I love the last scene. I love certain characters. I dislike some characters. It has its ups and downs, like any movie. However, looking at it as a whole and placing it within the franchise and it being the conclusion, I don't know. I just think it doesn't stack up to the others, in my opinion. And it's been a while since I've seen X-Men 2. But I know from X-Men 1, I don't think it held thorough throughout, and it kind of lost ground. Now, I do think people should see this movie. I think it's a good enough movie that you should see, but this is not a movie where you want to watch it, every year, or, this is a movie that you could see maybe once every decade and be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jacob, I think I'm about to say the most controversial thing I've ever said on this podcast.
Oh no. Listeners, shut it off now. Shut it off. Just kidding.
I really enjoyed this movie.
What?
I enjoyed it a lot. In fact, I liked it better than X-Men 2. The one that people love.
Why?
I liked it better than the first one. This one, X-Men 2, you'll have to listen to the episode, but I had issues with the pacing. It felt like a really long movie. It just didn't jive. This one, even though there's these two storylines going on, it was entertaining. The pacing was good. There were stakes. I will say there are probably too many deaths, but going into it now, it didn't bother me. Knowing that it wasn't going to continue probably helps a little bit with that. I think that... Is it a good Dark Phoenix movie? No, not really. Well, not really at all. I mean, what they do with her, I enjoy, but it's not really a Dark Phoenix movie, right? The stuff they do with her powers is really cool to watch. But if you're going in wanting the Dark Phoenix, that's not what you get here. It's something very different. I think the Cure storyline is very interesting. I think the action is well staged, well done. It's exhilarating. I really like this movie. The run length was good. It was 1 hour and 44 minutes. Thinking about this movie, I thought it was over 2 hours, and it's not even close. It's got a whole nother 16 minutes it could go before it got there. I really liked this movie, and watching it made me realize that if you look at these movies as Wolverine movies, which they pretty much are, the entire series is a tragedy for Wolverine. Because the first movie is all about Logan finding a family and learning to belong, because he's been by himself for so long. The second movie is kind of about him learning how to be a part of that family, learning who he is, where he came from, and he's just starting to get comfortable in it. And then he loses someone, and he kind of sticks around. And this third movie is about him still having remnants of that family and then losing everything he has left, but coming to terms with it. And that's something I've never thought about with these movies. It's kind of beautifully tragic. It's clearly tragic because he loses almost everyone he cares about. But at the same time, it's kind of beautiful because he learns to accept it and he learns to move on. And it appears, is maybe going to be a teacher at the end of this movie. The deleted scene doesn't seem to say that, but that's not in the movie. So I just really like this movie. I don't know why. I have seen it several times, probably not as much as X-Men 2. And I never quite understood why people hated it, but going into it this time, I was waiting for that. I was trying to understand. I was trying to see why. And I think it comes down to two things. I think it's because they killed a bunch of people they didn't want killed. And I think it's because of the Dark Phoenix part kind of not being what they wanted. And me, I'm okay with that. I know what ended up happening. I'm fine with that. And so I just really enjoyed this. It might be at my number one for this original trilogy.
Oh, wow. That is a really big statement, Caleb.
Yeah.
I will say, the one other thing that I will say about it is that looking at the franchise as a whole, okay, I do enjoy this franchise. I don't think it deserves as much crap as people give it. Is it amazing? No. Is it perfect? No, but no movie is. You could look at it all day long and see the faults in it. Now, there are some really, really good things in it that deserve to be praised. And all those things aren't carried throughout the movies. But that's okay. That happens with movies in franchises all the time because they try to change things to improve them. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Now, I will say, and Caleb, this is actually going to go directly against your statement, but the one thing that I wish these X-Men movies want is the thing that you love. I wish they want solely about Wolverine. Okay? This is my issue with these movies, and it always has been my issues with these movies, is they are X-Men movies, and yes, the way they are now is it does introduce new X-Men every movie, it does have a through line with everything, but it's so centralized on Wolverine, and I think that is a mistake, because all of these characters have such rich backgrounds and such deep stories that you can dive into, but if you limit yourself to one character being the protagonist, the main person, such as Wolverine, you really, really limit yourself with the areas that you can go and look through, and just the amount of people that you can connect with in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that it is a failing of these movies that Wolverine is pretty much the central character. My point was just that being said, it is kind of beautiful. But no, I totally agree. I wish these movies were more like First Class, where it's much more of a team movie.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think that if the first movie would have gone with more of a First Class themed, and keep all of the X-Men themselves as the protagonists, not just a single X-Man, then I would say that I don't think they would have stopped at a trilogy. I think they would have gone longer.
True, which, I mean, did they really stop?
That's true. And now saying that, I mean, maybe that would be bad. Maybe the first movie would have been really good, the second movie good, the third movie, and they would have kept going anyways. So, I don't know. The X-Men franchise as a whole is a little messy, and it's not in a nice knot, and you can get lost really easily. But starting with these first three, I don't think it was the worst they could have done. And I do think that people should go watch it, because I thoroughly enjoyed the franchise. If I had to give it an overall ranking, kind of like we've been doing with other movies, I would say that if these movies were still in theater, I would definitely go see them all in theater. Even though I had problems with some and I loved some more than others, I think if you watch them all continuously, then it tells a story, like Caleb said, that, I mean, most viewers are probably going to enjoy.
Agreed. But Jacob...
Now, no, don't do it yet. Not yet. I have one last thing. Okay? So, I told you earlier, I was curious for the body count for this last film. Okay? I felt like a lot of people died in here. I felt like they showed a lot of the deaths. And so I was curious, so I looked on several different websites, and I found what I think is probably one of the most accurate ones. Okay? So, credit goes out to a user named Rorschach94. Okay? He counted up all the bodies that are shown in the movie being killed, that are just shown. Okay? And he got 89, with Jean Grey killing the most at 36 people, and then Wolverine at 22. However, estimating, looking at things that went on and not necessarily showing the exact number of people that died and stuff, the estimate was about 270 people that died in this film, which I feel like is a lot compared to the other ones.
Oh, yeah, that's way higher.
Yeah, so I know that doesn't really matter. I just thought it was interesting, and it was my own little spadazzle on the show.
All right, well, now that you're done with that, this... Oh man, you messed me all up. I've lost.
Here,
I've lost the magic.
Let's just rewind.
Oh my goodness! Just. That was that. This is this. It's time for what you've been up to, Jacob.
Caleb.
And since you just rewound, let's put this on fast forward.
Caleb, what have I been up to? Okay, the main thing that I have been up to is finishing Punisher Season 2. It is great. It is fantastic. Amazing action, super good ending probably to the show because I do not think it'll get renewed. It leaves it off where it could be, but Netflix sucks, so I don't think they will. Now saying that, I think you should go watch it right now. I liked it better than the fourth season.
Oh wow.
The final shot in this is stupendous. It's amazing and just, it's awesome. It wraps up everything in a perfectly knitted bow from the fourth season, and it's just, I love it. It's amazing.
Do you knit your bows?
Caleb, who doesn't knit the bows?
Touché.
So, Caleb, that's what I've been up to. What you been up to?
I have not been up to much because I have been digging my life into Pokemon this past weekend. I think I'm ashamed to say that I played like 10 or 11 hours of Pokemon this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really good. It's awesome being able to ride your Pokemon. I rode my Charizard, and it was, like, awesome. It was the best. I rode my Rapidash.
Caleb likes riding Rapidashes.
It was really cool. Like the game a lot. If you haven't given Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee a chance and you have a Switch, definitely go out and try it. And that Pokeball Plus thing, the controller, definitely worth.
And also worth for Pokemon Go. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, I haven't tried it for Go, but I've heard good things.
It's stupendous.
I just don't want to carry it around.
Yeah, no, it's really quick. Courtney's brother, Corey, uses it. We can be driving 35 miles per hour, and it'll still spin Pokestops for him. It's fantastic.
Wait, do you have to press a button or anything?
Nope, it automatically spins Pokestops for you, and it automatically catches Pokemon for you.
I thought you had to press the button to...
So there's two different settings, right? So Corey was telling me the Pokestops, it automatically spins no matter what, okay? The Pokemon, there is one where you can have like a, if you already have it, there's like a red ring or a green ring, and then if you don't have it, there's like another color ring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think you can have it also where it picks it automatically. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's true. I think that's what Corey told me.
Okay, cool. And then I also watched a couple more episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which I talked about last week. I don't know if I'm going to continue with the series. It's just really, really fast-paced. It doesn't feel like there's any time for it to breathe. It is all very bizarre, and I like it, but it's just a lot at one time. It might be one of those shows I come back to later, and I watch a few more episodes, and I just finish it over time.
Interesting, Caleb. So, you know what doesn't take a long time to finish?
What's that?
Taylor Poole making his music.
That's right. We want to say thank you to Taylor Poole for our opening intro music. You can find him at taylorpoolemusic.com. That's TAYLORPOOLE music.com.
And while you're on the interwebs, just go ahead and head on over to CNC Power Hour on Twitch. They stream Magic the Gathering on Sundays and video games throughout the week.
And while you're at it, please go check out our website where it's got all of our episodes, some info about us, and it's also the best way to share the show. Thanks for listening to 'Cause We're Nerds. Stay up to date with all the nerdy news and podcast drops by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also leave us comments and feedback at cuzwerenerds@gmail.com. That's cuzwerenerds@gmail.com. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, we would love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Next week, we take a small step back in time. The original X-Men trilogy wasn't the first live-action X-Men property. Nope, that honor belongs to Generation X, a failed 1996 TV movie that was meant to launch a series. Is it good? Is it bad? And why does it even exist? Find out on next week's episode of 'Cause We're Nerds. Stay nerdy. I had a slightly horrifying thought when I was doing the outro that maybe I was spelling our email wrong and I'd been spelling it wrong for 60 episodes.
Wouldn't that be awful? You have hundreds of emails out there just wandering around for the right email address.
I was like, oh no, what did I do?
You said C-U-Z-W-E. Okay, we're good.
All right, I think that's it.
Awesome.